Good day, welcome everyone. So slight tech glitch, and we set up a new LinkedIn live from Streamline, for a 30-minute later start. So hope that doesn't inconvenience anyone. But my name is Darryl Woodhouse. Welcome to one of our monthly free events. This one is all about the smarter future and what that has to do with high performance leadership. If we've not met before, hello. If we have met before, hello. But if you'd like to read up a bit more on myself and my background, learn more about my work, we've got a couple of websites, but probably the first or best one to look at is darrylwoodhouse.com. We've just got it just up on the screen here for you. We'll pop that in the chat later as well, so you can find access to that kind of information more easily. Just so we're not all business, behind the scenes when I'm not working, I'm very much trying my best to be a hands-on dad and spending as much time with my family as possible. So this photo you see at the top of the screen there is a lovely, happy family photo from last Christmas. So you see myself there and my wife and my 4 children. I'm very proud of. I feel very thankful to have them. And of course, one of our best friends, Father Christmas. Now, getting into things for today, what to expect. Let me just move a few things around. Here we go. So, as you would have seen advertised in the event summary and on our social media, this is intended as an event with no hard sell, no BS. You don't have to wait right until the very end for a little bit of value. This is very much about giving a taster to the work that I do. One of my largest and most popular flagship programs is the High Performance Leadership Program. I'll be talking about that a little bit more later. But as part of giving you a taster, it's telling you a little bit about what it's about and give you some insights to what high performance leadership is, why it's necessary, why it's needed more than ever before. With practical tips and takeaways I'm going to give you today through this live stream. And if you're not watching live, if you're on the replay, then of course you'll catch that replay in your own time and you'll have exactly the same information. As the main bit you'll miss out on is the live Q&A. But that's all good because I'm easy to find online. You're very welcome to message me at any time with any questions, clarifications, anything you're stuck on, all around the themes of what we talk about today. Let's go into those themes in a bit more detail. So I'm going to start off with a bit about the truth about overworking and inefficiency. This comes from a lot of very successful and less so successful people, but people who have very good intentions, who are very ambitious, hardworking, dedicated to their careers, their businesses, their current family or their future family, committed to being successful and becoming the best version of themselves as possible. And one of the ways that they do that is through long working hours, working far more than the hours that they're paid for and contracted for. And there's been this culture traditionally for a long time that you've got to put in long hours to be as successful as possible. But that is no more. And there's plenty of research, case studies, and not just my own, but from other institutes, business schools, other experts that are now making available and showering us with fantastic insights that show us we don't have to work those long hours to be as successful as possible. Actually, if we invest in some high impact performance improvement skills, some tools, if we learn about burnout prevention, and if we make time to call out the root causes of work-related stress and then create action plans to get rid of that stress rather than just sweeping it under the carpet all the time, pretending we're too busy with our day-to-day job to tackle this stuff. If we can start to do things a little bit more differently, stuff I'm going to help you with and guide you on today, and more deeply and further beyond today, if you want to come and talk to me about my programs, through this way of working, this smarter way of working, we can achieve all that we want, or at least have the best possible chance of achieving it, and be more successful, but without long working hours, without sacrificing our life-work balance, without sacrificing our long-term health, all serious consequences, which can have something could be quite tragic. All of these are big reasons why it's not good. It's not recommended to work long hours. So we're again going to later on go into a high impact performance improvement and burnout prevention method, and with a really actionable piece of advice segment within this webinar, with simple, easy to action tips to reduce any work, overworking and stress, to get more done in less time. In other words, working smarter, not harder, and how to live your life more, to be happier, to be healthier, whilst achieving more at work. So all of this stuff, if it sounds amazing, great. If you feel skeptical, fine, great, because stick around, because I can show you how and why this works, and with stuff that you can go and implement straight away. And if you're not overworking, if you're not frequently stressed, if you're not constantly sacrificing your life-work balance, that's great, fantastic. However, you're probably in a leadership role. A lot of people in my network are in leadership roles, from junior to mid to executive level. It's companies small and large all around the world. And you will have hopefully a care and a responsibility to help your colleagues, your staff, who absolutely, statistically, very likely for the majority then to be working consistently longer hours than they perhaps need to, and they are enduring unhealthy levels of stress frequently. So unhealthy levels. So there's an element of stress that is good and is healthy, but research is telling us and showing us, my clients are showing us, my personal experiences of burnout are showing me that this overworking, this high stress is so common, and so many people are just putting up with it, and we don't need to anymore. Companies can be more profitable, they can be more successful, whilst supporting their staff, creating a happier culture, encouraging staff to tackle with the employer, with their bosses, with their colleagues, the root causes of work-related stress, to upskill in productivity and time management, team building, better communication, better, stronger leadership. All of these things, this is some of the stuff I'm going to be touching on today. And of course, if you want more, there's a whole load of it in my transformation programs. So just a little bit on the transformation programs. We'll go into a bit more detail on this a little bit later before we come into the live Q&A. But those of you that can't wait to hear a little bit about the program, I've been doing various iterations of this program for a few years now. My working career, my full-time working career has been 22 years plus now. Earlier career was in corporate leadership. And then 12 years ago, I started my first company. If you haven't heard of it, it's Advantage Business Partnerships Limited. Full details are easy to find on my LinkedIn profile. I've got an amazing team there of business mentors, scale-up business coaches, executive coaches, leadership trainers, leadership development consultants, change management experts, culture change experts, and a whole load more. We've got quite a diverse team with an international reach. And we've had quite a few successes over the years, some case studies, many testimonials that we're proud of. You don't have to look too far to find those on my LinkedIn and on our websites. And over the years, I've always developed newer, improved programs. I've always evolved what myself and my team do based on getting better and deeper understandings to what makes businesses and their staff tick, whilst also adapting and adjusting to modern day, current day key challenges and headaches that employees and organizations are facing. So the program that is the most current and has been the most popular in recent years is my high performance leadership program. I've delivered this in a range of ways through my own company, through my own brand, and I've also delivered the vast majority of the elements in that program through the guest business lecturing and the executive training programs that I've been delivering for other organizations in recent years. So I've now worked with hundreds of leaders just in the last couple of years alone, from hundreds of different organizations, all shapes and sizes, different challenges, different cultures. And a lot of the key headaches, challenges, opportunities for improvement, they are very, very similar. And it's solutions to those that I've constantly built in and evolved my programs with. And just to give you an idea of some of the results we're having with this program, there's 100% improvement in satisfaction for everyone who's been through the programs. There's an average saving of more than 10.7 work hours per week for each participant. We've had a 25% productivity uplift. Now that's within the 12-week version of the program, but many people are actually achieving that uplift within a few weeks of starting, or within the first day's worth of content effectively. So I deliberately built in some quick win to the start of the program so that people can see the gains, see the improvements, and to help motivate and energize them to stick with it, to trust my process, follow it through to the end, and not let other distractions kind of hold you back and get in the way. A 50% uplift in energy, motivation, and happiness. That's another big one. Got a couple of testimonials on the screen here. If you're skeptical, and if you want to have a closer look, you can see the red circle at the bottom right of the screen here. This is a screenshot from my LinkedIn profile, and there are 185 testimonials on there today from various leaders and hardworking employees of all these different companies that I'm talking about. So go and see for yourself, see what they say about what it's like to work with me, see what they say about the mini MBA and the Director Accelerator programs I've been delivering through my own company, and for various other organizations that I do guest training for. Now, one key difference from the programs that business schools and top universities are providing on the topics of leadership, development, strategy, planning, change management. And one key difference is that I like to do my programs over 12 weeks. So that's not 12 weeks full time for the participants. It's a one live session a week. It's no more than 2 to 3 hours of attending the session and implementing some of the change actions, some of the takeaways that I'm going to give you. And then what it means is that every week you've got one new topic and one new module and a handful of key actions to implement and to get results from, or to identify new problems and challenges from. And you bring them back to the next session the week after. We do a bit of troubleshooting. Then we go into that week's module with new content and new actions. So it's much more bite-sized, it's much more manageable, delivered in this way over 12 weeks, rather than typically the 3 to 5 day intensives, either on Zoom, on Teams, or in person in major cities. And I've been doing all of this kind of stuff in the last few years. So I've seen what works best. And it's the bite-sized 12-week version that is more popular. But that doesn't fit the model for a lot of business schools. Just doesn't fit their model so far, as we're seeing. But for me, I run my own business. It's an agile, it's a very lean business. So I'm going to do what I want. And I do what I want based on my strengths, my experiences, and based on what I see in the market, what my clients are telling me they want help with, what are the most common headaches and challenges of businesses today, post-COVID. So there's a couple of bits there to think about. And you might see as a second red circle on the screen here. On my high performance leadership program, I'm so confident of the results. We've done it so many times, I know it works. That's why we started recently offering a 100% refund. So if you don't save more than 10 work hours per week from working with me in the program, I'll give you the whole amount of money, either you as an individual or your organization, depending on who's paid for it. We provide a full refund. So, it's quite bold. Not many providers do that. The business schools that I work with certainly don't do that. So, it's like, what have you got to lose? Hopefully that entices you enough to stick around and see this all the way through. And now we're going to kind of lift up the bonnet and go a bit deeper into the insights of overworking, of inefficiency, of burnout. And we're going to go into some of the actionable advice before the live Q&A. So just have a look at some of the stats that you see on the screen here. Top left, some of the risks that are now being well researched and advertised. Some of the risks to our long-term health of working such long hours. Now, I have suffered 2 of the 3 quite on serious levels from my major burnout back in 2016. And of course, it was that burnout, learning the hard way. That's how I kind of was almost forced, if you like, by circumstances to try out the less is more approach, the 4-day week, for example, and really focus in on not working hard for long hours, but working hard for a more reasonable, a healthier number of hours, but being really super smart with that time, really pulling out all my best productivity tools and tricks, all the stuff I've developed myself over the years, stuff I've learned from others, and using that to, for myself, improve that health, well-being. And it's since I started sort of working in that way back in sort of 2017 that I've become much more successful despite working more than half as much as I had done for 15 years. Healthier, happier. Many my friends and clients can't believe that I'm 40 years old. Apparently I look younger, and some of my career achievements tell me that to tell others that I probably should be a bit older for what I do. But no, I am 40. I've still got my natural hair color. I'm very lucky. A little bit of receding, I think, going on here, but that's all good. It's all part of getting wiser and being on this wonderful planet for longer, should we get that opportunity. So yeah, but as I said, burnout, it's not good. It's not pretty. I can take more questions on it later if you want to know more about the impact it had and how it kind of, for a period of time, completely turned my life upside down and rocked my world. I guess the best bit really is, what did I do differently to then work half as much as I always had done, and actually become more successful in the process, in life and in work. And that's the stuff we want to get into as soon as possible today, to give you some of that juicy, actionable stuff. So one, you've got some stuff that you can go and implement straight away and see how it works for you. And secondly, so that, this is a worthwhile amount of your time to listen to this webinar and make some notes and then make time in the diary to go and implement to make the changes. One word of caution with those stats I just mentioned on the top left. A lot of the medical studies into this, we're not discovering the significant impact on long-term health till many years after the periods of working more than 50 hours a week. So that's one of the reasons, that's one of the problems why so many people, even me, how I did for 15 years, how we kind of accept and put up with the long hours. Oh, it's only for 10, 20 years, and then I'm going to slow down, I'm going to retire early, or I'm going to go semi-retired, it'll be fine. I feel good, I don't feel too unwell, it's manageable. But the insights are telling us that we're setting ourselves up for potentially quite a big fall later down the line, and any nasty stuff happening to people. If you're not familiar with how common burnout is, in some of my own studies, typically in my studies, we're talking 200 to 300 leaders across all different organizations with a demographic from around the world. So quite a good sample size, I would say. And then that's reinforced further from the professional speaking I do, the audiences I speak to and meet there, from the executive programs that I deliver. It's all consistent. So 90% reported a medium or high burnout concern. 39% confessed to overworking, In this context, we're talking about more than 20% above contracted work hours. So if you're contracted for 40 hours a week, we're talking about 50 hours plus. Then quite well published, Deloitte provides some excellent insights into well-being and leadership development and organizational challenges. And in one of their more recent and quite large-scale studies, 77% had experienced burnout in a worldwide study in their current roles. That's huge. It's pretty much 4 in 5. So if it's not happened to you, good. Let's hope it stays that way. But the chances are that, if you're in a team of 5 or 10, the vast majority of those will have. Now, hopefully they've been softer burnouts and they've not been the harder ones that I've been through. But, wow, if you're not careful, it can be really bad. And guess what? The good bit is it can all be avoidable. But you need to hear the rest of this session to understand why and to take away the actions. An interesting one I like to look at is, what does overworking prevent an individual from doing? This is from another study. Look at the bar chart on the right hand side. Time off, not taking your full holiday entitlement. That's a very common one for people choosing to overwork. Adopting a pet, and hey, that's a big thing to a lot of people. It's great for fitness, it's great for social, it's great for family. So that's a big sacrifice if you're putting that off or not having it, or rehoming a pet because you're working too much. Family time is a big one that's missed out on. Romantic relationships, adequate sleep, which is obviously a big one for a whole range of things: energy, productivity, long-term health, life expectancy, to help fight and minimize or slow down the aging process. That's a big one around the importance of sleep. And starting a family. That's another big one that people are missing out on or deferring because of overworking. I just want to highlight one of the stats on the screen here. So on your right hand side, in the middle, the impact on productivity. So working more than 50 hours a week, or in other words, 20% more than your contracted hours. We found that employees who overwork and experience chronic fatigue can lose 4.4 times the productivity of well-rested workers. Now, I've been in that chronic fatigue phase, obviously in the past. And, from experiencing it now and looking back, absolutely, it was killing my productivity. It was killing my energy levels, my vitality. It was suppressing my creative thinking, my problem solving, my innovation. It was affecting let's be honest, it was affecting the quality of my client work, the quality of my marketing direction for my team, a whole host of things. And I know this is common. It's not just me. It's like most people are experiencing this. Sometimes it takes a while to realize as well. Some people just crack on, they get their heads down, they're ambitious, they're grafters, they don't want to complain, they don't want to be seen as negative, they want to be positive. So they just carry on pushing in the hours, cramming it in, fighting the burnout, fighting the fatigue. And it can be not until a number of months or even years later that they realize, either through something tipping them over the edge, or someone else expressing concern about a loved one, or maybe someone in the office. And so it's, I guess, by sharing some of the symptoms of burnout, which we're going to jump into shortly, by sharing some of the symptoms of burnout, people can recognize, sooner that they're in a burnout right now, or they're on the way to a burnout. So great, you can now be more educated to take action. There's a significant cost of work-related stress. There's a couple of insights here. 15 million days in the UK every year lost to work-related stress. At the cost of 5 billion. That's in the UK. In the US, we've got a $500 billion cost per year. That's from some very credible studies from the American Psychological Association. And then This is another big one, a good big indicator of overworking and too much work-related stress in organizations. A low employee engagement, great sign, great KPI, great metric for how an organization and its workforce is doing. Such organizations with that low employee engagement, as you can see on the screen here, 18% lower productivity, 16% lower profitability, and a 65% lower share price over time. That's from Queen's School of Business and Gallup. So again, really credible quality insights there. It's really important to look at the causes of work-related stress because it's so costly, because it's such a big common pathway to burnout and some of these other serious risks and problems that we talked about earlier. These are just the top 5 from the Workplace Health Report. And you see in the pinky red lines, and that is showing 2023 figures. And then the second of each line in purple, that's showing the comparison to 2022. So there's some interesting changes there that you might have noticed, but certainly lots of studies are showing that job-related stress, rates of burnout, the causes of work-related stress, they are not being tackled thoroughly, if at all, in most organizations. Fact. When you lift up the bonnet into an organization, as I often do through my work, it's always fascinating seeing how common some of the causes are across, from one organization to another. I also like looking into some other themes that can make quite a big impact to reducing overworking, reducing stress, improving employee engagement, helping teams, colleagues, leaders, everyone to get more done in less time. And so one that I spent quite a bit of time studying, as have others, so it's not just my insights available online, but looking at meetings. Meetings comes up very commonly through all of my one-to-one coaching, my group programs. It just comes up everywhere. We spend too much time in meetings about meetings that I didn't need to be at, meetings that were ineffective, inefficient, they were far too long, they weren't structured enough, etc., etc. There's so many common complaints here, and this is most organizations. So it's, again, some of my own research, 91% of leaders said that work meetings could be better and shorter. They were frustrated by it. 29% said that meetings are draining with much room to improve. It's 1 in 3. Not one in 3 people in an organization are fed up with it. It's affecting their energy, it's affecting their motivation to try harder for the company. It's increasing the likelihood that they're going to look around for jobs elsewhere to see if the grass is actually greener or not. And then interestingly, when we look at what organizations are doing about work-related stress, we're seeing that 53% do not have a stress reduction strategy. Now, I think it's actually higher than that. I think maybe a few people don't quite actually know whether there is one or not, and maybe there's a bit of uncertainty there. That's not necessarily on them. Potentially that's on their leadership and their exec, on if there is one, in not communicating it, by not having a quality internal comms program to roll it out, to help embed it, to amplify the messaging, to remind people of it, to drive it through as a change project, to get the results, to show that it works, to measure the improvements. But yeah, having a stress reduction strategy, maybe it's 1 in 2. I think it's a lot more that don't have it. But it doesn't have to be a lengthy document. The ones I've done with organizations, 2 or 3 pages, very much focused on what are we going to do differently. And one area for that is tackling ineffective meetings. There's a workshop I've done for a few organizations now called How to how to have better, shorter meetings. And it's a very short but interactive workshop. So it's usually wrapped up in like 45 minutes, an hour max, depending if we get loads of questions at the end or not. And we co-create a work meeting rules of engagement document. Typically, it's no more than 2 pages long. It's all in bullet points. And the most we've had on there was 44 action points. Not a lot of rocket science in there. A lot of it's about getting the basics right around agenda setting, communication, etiquette, making sure we've got the right people there, all this kind of stuff. And 44 different ways you can help make those meetings shorter and better. And that was from that one in particular, we had the record of 44 action points. That was a very successful organization, a very hardworking organization. So it's not just a failing business that needs this help and can have significant room for improvement. And when you consider how much time we all spend in meetings at work, doesn't it make sense to invest a little bit of time now, short-term pain for long-term gain, to save a significant amount of time for meetings, have more time for the follow-ups, for more time for creating better strategies, for spending more time coaching, mentoring our people? Take what you will from that, but I'm very happy to take questions on that later, or to one-to-one about it as well. Let me know, but it's a massive opportunity for the vast majority of organizations that have these problems. And it all stems around looking at the root causes of work-related stress in your organization. So moving into some more actionable advice, there is a smoother journey to how we live and how we work. We're going to move into this tool that I advertise ahead of the workshop. I covered it off in the contents page earlier as well. And it's a high performance improvement tool and burnout prevention all in one. Now, when I go and introduce something like that, typically to a team or to an individual or an entire organization, we do a bit of research and some light surveying. But when we've done this over the last couple of years, again, hundreds of companies, hundreds of leaders, hundreds of hardworking people, we've identified that 83% of teams and organizations, all the stuff they do in their business planning, in their team planning, in their appraisals, it's all about 83% of the time, it's all about what are our weaknesses and how we're going to fix or reduce them. Now that's important and it's good, because these weaknesses, these development areas we have, the threats to our market, whatever it might be, those risks and threats really can close down our company, derail our business, of course, lead to redundancies, business administration, a whole load of negative stuff. So they are important to be addressed and to be focused on 100%. However, there's a massive opportunity we're missing by putting all of our personal development, our business improvement focus into fixing holes, fixing leaky taps, fixing short-term current issues. And we'll go into that on the next slide. I want to get to that in a moment. The other thing that comes up as a trend is that 77% of the same audience are admitting that their organization very much leads with a short-term cost-saving mindset. If it's not obvious what that means, this is where a leader or an entire executive or an organization, where they're always focusing on the next 3 months or the next 6 months. And it's very much about, right, how much money can we save at the moment? How can we make more profit? What are the projections? How can we get our sales team to deliver more sales for us? How can we lay off some staff to save some money, to trim our overheads? Now, again, I'm not saying we shouldn't be having those conversations. These are really important conversations, but key action here to take away, write this down if this doesn't apply, if you don't already do this in your organization. Yes, have a short-term cost-saving mindset if if you want to, if that works for your organization. But before you make the decisions with that mindset, you need to weigh up, what are you sacrificing? What are you missing out on in the long run by making those cost-saving short-term decisions? In other words, if we weren't to lay off these 10% of our employee headcount in the next 12 months, if we weren't to do that, but if we were to actually expand our headcount, because listening to our staff and analysing what the hell they do with their time, they've got too much on their plate. There's more client upselling, client retention, client referral, and new customer opportunities out there in our marketplace, but we haven't got the time or resource at the moment to go out and win them. So we know there's more business for us out there. So actually, if we grew our headcount, we can keep more of our staff who are currently frustrated with excessive workload and unrealistic expectations. Yeah. And we can then model over several years that actually by keeping our current headcount and increasing it further, potentially, if we decide it's a good idea, we can forecast that in the long run, we're going to be much more profitable. We're going to save on staff-related absence costs. We're going to have lower recruitment and retraining costs from a low employee engagement and low staff retention. And we're going to have happier customers. We're going to get more referrals. We're going to have more sales resource because we're going to invest in growing the team. And we're going to make more profit. Now, at least when you're weighing up the short-term opportunity, short-term savings, whatever, with the longer term, then you can be more informed about which way you should go. The problem is most organizations, and I've spoken to many leaders, many executives, I'm telling you this is fact. Many of them are saying that we're not even looking at the long-term return on investment. We're not even doing a cost-benefit analysis of comparing, reducing our headcount by 10%, reducing our leadership training investing less in our people. We haven't looked at the pros and cons of that and compared that to the potential pros and cons of not cutting or reducing that investment, and maybe even increasing it. So that is a massive mindset and cultural piece. I'm really keen to change it globally, but I need more people to talk about it, to tell others, to call it out, and to help people make much more better informed decisions, weighing up short-term versus long-term. And this is a tool, just one tool of many in my armory that can help with this stuff. And this tool is very much about unlocking further growth, reducing overworking, smashing work-related stress, and boosting performance, boosting productivity. And I call it the Strengthener Trio. It's incredibly simple. It's my own tool. I've used it for years now. And there's 3 core components. So right now, as you're listening, I want you to write down, for you as an individual, write down your key strengths. So let's give you a few moments to do that. So we do this as a live exercise. Even if you're catching the replay, do this. You can do this in your own time. You can even pause the video right now if you're watching this as a replay, and you can take your time over it. The more time you put into this, the bigger and better the outcomes. So once you've written down what your key strengths are as an individual in the workplace, then I want you to look at your schedule and to look at your task list for the coming weeks. I want you to try and think outside the box and challenge yourself. Part 1 of the trio, what can I do to use my strengths more frequently? What changes can I make to my diary, to my schedule, to spend more frequency using those strengths, using them more often? Number 2, it might be an obvious one, but what can I do, looking at those strengths, looking at the schedule, what can I do to spend more time overall using and applying my strengths and leveraging my strengths? Now, the third and most important component of the Strengthener Trio is tasks, activities, changes you can make to transform your performance, your productivity, your career, your business success. And that is something that your favorite sports team and athletes are particularly good at. They don't just focus on weaknesses all the time. They put typically equal amount of time that they put into weaknesses. They put it into, right, how can I get fitter, faster, stronger? How can I break new records? How can I be even stronger, increase my endurance, and all of these kind of things? So how can I leverage my strengths better? Just because they're strengths today or yesterday, I'm not going to be complacent with them. Doesn't mean they're going to be strengths tomorrow, because there could be a new athlete who's younger and more determined or more naturally gifted than me in the workplace. That could be a new entrant to market. It could be a new person to come and join the leadership team in your organization. That person is, let's say, more naturally gifted than you at leadership and business growth and strategy and productivity skills. Or maybe they're more liked by the person that hired them. Could be some bias in there somewhere. You never know. There's a whole load of things, risks, threats to us, to our success. And if we can be more proactive around using our strengths and leveraging our strengths better, and not just having this mindset of focusing on weaknesses and short-term problems, it's a really transformational way to improve our success. Now, if and when you've done that as an individual and you see that it works, I hope that's obvious already that it works from what I talked through so far. The next level up, if you like, is then go and do this as an exercise with your team. And you can, ideally in the same room if possible. If not, you can do it with a virtual whiteboard. But you then want to group under everyone. You want to map up their strengths and weaknesses, development areas, capture things that they don't like doing, things that frustrate them in the workplace as well. Get all of that up on the board, and then kind of take some time for everyone to go and have a look at each other's and increase their awareness and understanding of how their colleagues think and what their preferences are, and how they feel about different things, learning their strengths and weaknesses better. And then you want to go and try and move a few things around. So you want to say, okay, right, so Bob doesn't like doing these 3 things. They equate to roughly 10 hours a week of his time. So, we want to reallocate that and then say, oh, look, Sally and John actually enjoy doing those, and they're natural skills or they're professionally qualified in them. So guess what? They're actually probably going to get those activities done 4 times quicker than if Bob kept doing them. So, okay, great. That's a great opportunity. However, Sally and John are already at capacity. In fact, they're overworking, so they can't take on more work. But that's okay, because from this exercise, of course, we can now look at what are the things that they don't like doing, what de-energizes, demotivates them, what are their weaknesses. Oh, great. There's a whole load of things here that other people in our team enjoy, who enjoy doing those tasks, who are good at them, who can do them quicker, to a higher standard, more easily, with less stress. The multiplier impact of this as an exercise is, I'm telling you, huge, and it is a culture change. And this is just one tool in my leadership toolkit that I provide in my programs. So if you like the sound of that, there's a whole lot more. There's a whole lot more potential and growth to unlock, whether it's an individual or in a team or in an entire workforce. The wider, the bigger we go, better, the more gains there are. But sometimes we need to start with ourselves. So, and not take on too much and do it in baby steps. So that's a strength from the trio. Fantastic tool to optimize, to increase performance, to work smarter, not harder, and a great way of helping prevent burnout and reducing a lot of the causes of work-related stress. Let's look at a couple of others. So we've touched on strengths versus root cause and prevention. Symptoms versus root cause and prevention. So, there's lots of, sometimes I get put in a well-being expert club, and that's nice. And yeah, I do know some stuff about well-being, but that's not my expertise. That's not my core strength. It's not my focus. I actually work with lots of really great corporate well-being and other wellness experts, and we collaborate because they do things like nutrition and personal training, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, a whole load of great stuff that I know all my clients, all the organization I work with, they would benefit from. I don't do that stuff. I could do it, but it's not my strength, and it's not really where I can have the most value for you. So I'd rather you do that with other proven experts who love doing that and who are they've been doing it far longer than I, and then we focus on what my strengths are. So I'm not a wellbeing expert. And well-being, a lot of corporate well-being strategies in recent years, they very much focus on easing the symptoms of stress. That's great, that's fantastic. However, my work is kind of complementary to easing symptoms. I call out the root causes of work-related stress and burnout, and I coach, I train individuals and teams and workforces to prevent it at the source, to stop it from happening in the first place, or at least significantly reduce it. That is far more impactful. And when you throw in then my productivity skills training, my time management expertise, you throw that in as well. Now we're talking about amplifying and accelerating profit growth, performance improvement, and adding a whole load of other return on investment to organizations and individuals, of course. Now, the next actionable piece of advice, I want you to, if you know the answer to this, write this down on your pads right now. I want you to write down your words per minute count when you're typing. If you don't know, great. If you do know, great also. There's no right or wrong answer. So if you don't know your words per minute, there's a whole load of free tools online where you can go and do a little test. It takes a few minutes, 5-10 minutes max, and it tells you what your how many words you can type per minute if you your WPM score. Obviously, if you have done it before, great. But how recently did you do it? Would it be interesting to do it again? Have you got faster? Are you the same? Have you slowed down? Whatever that score is, also thinking about the strength in the trio that we talked about earlier. How can you get even better at it? If you think your word per minute count is good now, great. But actually, have you done any training? Have you practiced with it in recent months or recent years? Possibly not. So actually, can we get 20-30% faster at our word per minute count and actually be saving ourselves hours of time per week that we spend writing emails, writing reports, because we can type that much quicker. My late mum, bless her, she encouraged me to do a touch typing course when I was 15, I think it was. And she said, look, this is going to really help you with your exams, your essays, all the stuff that you have to do for school on the computer. And she said it's also going to help you later on in life when you're working career, if you end up with a, for instance, a desk job. And she was right. And it was only like 15-20 minutes a week for me for a month or so, I think it was roughly, to do this course. And it doubled my touch typing speed in a little amount of time. Now, when you think about how much time me, the average person, spends typing in a lifetime, to double your speed is huge. It's a huge saving. I then went back and did another one a couple of years ago, and I increased it by another 25-26%. You can teach an old dog new tricks, and we can always get better. We can become even stronger at something. So something you think about that. It's only about, I've seen courses online for $30-50. It doesn't need to break the bank. It's a good investment, whether your employer makes it or you do it for yourself as a personal investment. That's time very well spent. And that's just another example of actionable ways to get more done in less time. We touched on meeting culture earlier, and we talked about having a stress reduction strategy. We talked about how meetings is one of the biggest, most common complaints and frustrations and impacts on employee engagement. And we talked about how actually effective and easy it is to create a meeting productivity guide for your team, for your colleagues, for the workforce, enabling you to make those meetings much shorter and much better. So if you want to have a chat about a workshop for that, hey, I'd love to talk to you about that. It's also, of course, one of the key modules in my program, in my transformation program. Then you have what's. So we're nearing the end of the actionable piece of advice section, and then we're going to move into a Q&A. You have what's. So if you haven't heard me or read my blogs on this before, or seen any of my YouTube videos where I provide lots of short practical advice videos, this is a short for a walk and talk. Almost back to the subject of meetings, we spend far too much time sat in a chair in meetings, whether that's in person in an office, a nice office in a capital city, or maybe in the countryside, or if we're sat on Zoom a lot in our home offices. Challenge to you, look at your, if this applies to you, if you're spending a lot of time sat on a chair in meetings, virtually or in person, look at your diary for the next few weeks, and I just want you to challenge yourself, either right now, pause the replay, or come back to it a bit later, whatever, but just make sure you follow through on this. Look at your diary for the next few weeks and challenge yourself. Which of these meetings really have to be sat in a chair in an office somewhere? How many of these meetings actually arguably could be done as a phone call with a wire, in a headset, walking in a nice country park near me, a safe environment, of course, avoiding busy roads and lots of noise, for example. But yeah, how many of these meetings can be done outside where I can get some fresh air, some fitness, a screen break, and a boost to my energy and productivity levels, whilst doing good business? It's a massive hack for productivity, innovation, creativity, burnout prevention, and a whole lot more. It's amazing. And the great thing is, it's not just great for you, it's great for the people on the end of the phone line who you're encouraging to do it too. So I've got a number of my current and past clients now who still rave about the walks and talks, and will do walks and talks to catch up and put the world to rights and whatnot. Sometimes the weather's not great, so what? Get a Mac, get a poncho, whatever, get a strong wind-resistant umbrella, but in some wellies, just get out and do it. It's still really, really good for us, and it's very effective. Obviously, some of the meetings that are highly sensitive or highly confidential, you just got to be a bit aware of your surroundings, and maybe those ones need to be staying in a chair in a private office. But there are many meetings that can be done as a walk and talk. So that's a strong and quite a big challenge to you. See what you can do with that. And let me know how you get on. Let me know how it feels after you've done the first one. Let me know if you witness the changes that I and others before you have experienced. And then last but not least, it's about other must-have skills in business, in life, that typically we don't get much of in our education system. We don't get much in terms of training from our employers at work. And I'm talking about a few things I've alluded to and touched on already: productivity skills, time management, prioritization, delegation skills. For the 30% of us who suffer with and lose time due to procrastination, how do you diagnose procrastination and how do you reduce it? What key actions are there to reduce it? Okay, that's a skill. There's some real knowledge there that anyone can learn and apply. Communication skills. We can all get better at communication. We all have bad habits. We can all slip back into sloppy behaviors at times, which can affect the quality of communication and affect productivity and engagement and energy levels and a whole lot more. Leadership effectiveness. So many people in leadership roles, but they've never had much or any professional training in what does great leadership look like day to day. What are the right behaviors? What are the key actions to be an effective, well-liked, and a very effective, successful leader? Having the knowledge, the skills, the tools. How do we get really good at planning? How do we improve our strategic thinking? How do we create a culture where our workforce doesn't feel inclined or have to work long hours, but where we can still optimize our success and performance, or even increase our performance from having a better life-work balance whilst applying productivity and time management skills and effective communications and team building? Now, if any of that resonates, you've got a couple of options. You've got another free set of resources from me on my website, 4 epic life work effect pillars for smarter hybrid working. There are more than 50 more simple, practical habits, activities that you can go and implement right now or gradually over the coming weeks and months stuff to help yourself, your colleagues with, your team, your entire organization, go and download it. It's free. I promise, I guarantee you, it's very practical and easy to implement the stuff that's in there. Some of it you'll know. A lot of the stuff that you will know, you're not applying it. If you are applying it, the challenge is, are you applying it as frequently as you could to maximize and optimize the benefits? These are all opportunities. For the stuff that's new, that's even better. I'm giving you new knowledge today that you're going to start doing, and you're going to use it frequently for the maximum amounts of duration to optimize the outcomes and the performance impact. These are some gifts that you now have access to. So I look forward to seeing lots of downloads and hearing lots of great feedback from you on what were your favorite habits in the ebook. Another option you have my high performance leadership program. All this stuff I talked about, all those other must-have skills, all those important tools I referred to, and all of that is within my program, in the high performance leadership program. So it's really packed, 12 different modules spread over 12 weeks. So it's very bite-sized, it's very manageable. I love to provide it. I love to see how people change and evolve. People who've been working for 10, 20, 30, even 40 years without some of this knowledge, without some of this training, and how it's completely transforming their lives and their work performance, their career, their business success, literally, in some cases overnight, in some cases within days, sometimes weeks. But remember, there's that money back guarantee I provide within 90 days. If you don't gain and save the 10 hours per week, get all your money back. So, it is bold, but I like to help people. I like to put money where my mouth is. I know that, we're in some tough times financially, individually, for organizations, for economies around the world. So I know that doing something like this, a money back guarantee, hopefully just removes a bit of that anxiety and helps people make this kind of right investment decision without worrying so much about the money, and you can see the return. And hey, worst case scenario, it doesn't work and you get your money back. So we're trying to minimize that risk for you. If you want more information on the program, I've got a full website landing page. I can send you that link if you send me a message, or you can probably easily find it on the darylwoodhouse.com website, or just message me. A lot of people message me on LinkedIn, ask me for a link or ask me any questions. If we have to, we can also jump on a one-to-one meeting. I can one-to-one view, I can meet more of your team even, take any questions, do a bit of a live demo of the program, expand on some of the stuff we talked about in the session today. But anything that helps really, I'd say, we try and give as much concise but valuable information as possible online, on the websites, on YouTube, etc. So that we're easy to find, so it's easy to access the information, because that can be more time efficient for people than having to jump on those one-to-one calls all the time, especially when we're trying to reduce the number of meetings, right? We talked about this earlier. So you know where I am if you need me on this. I'd love to hear from people. I love meeting new people, new faces. I love to make an impact, and I love sharing my 20 plus years experience of developing teams, organizations, helping them be more successful, typically, with more efficiency, better productivity, and especially in more recent years, applying more well-being and more life-work balance and cutting out that overworking. And a key part of that is calling out those root causes of work-related stress and creating simple, practical actions to fix, to remove them. And this is one of the biggest, most common topics, problems, frustrations that hardworking leaders and other hardworking employees share with me. And hey, the answers are out there. I've got them. Other people have got them. The answer, the opportunities are there. It's here right now, and it's up to you now what you do with it. But I really hope you choose wisely and make the right decision. Now, I'm going to call in my dear friend Russ. If you've been on the sessions before, you'd have met Russ before, but Russ is my guardian angel for these sessions. He helps me stop flapping around when there's any tech issues or glitches, and he's been here in the background. And here he is now. Here's Russ. Thank you, Russ, for helping us run smoothly and doing what you do. It's always appreciated what you do. And now you, I believe, have been keeping an eye on any comments and questions that have come through, because obviously streaming across multiple platforms. We might not have time for all of the questions, so we will need to wrap this up soon, but perhaps you can pick out a couple of golden nuggets, some of the best questions.
Yeah, no problem. Siobhan has asked, what advice would you give to an 18-year-old version of yourself, Yarrell?
Run. No, sorry. Those who get to know me, I do very frequently come up with the odd bad joke. That was an attempted joke. Apologies if it wasn't very funny. But no, in all seriousness, what would I advise a younger version of myself, an 18-year-old version? I just wish that someone taught me this stuff about burnout, what it looks like, the symptoms, the risks of it. I wish I was taught the value of a life-work balance and showed me the productivity skills, the decision-making skills that can help me and others to be even more successful in work, in the businesses, whilst living life more and having more time for family, hobbies, fitness, you name it. It's just, I guess there's almost a bit of regret there that I spent 15, 16 years working twice as much as I needed to, causing myself, and my family some issues, some health conditions for myself, several of which I now have for life, and I have to treat and manage them daily. I, of course, channel them now as motivation to educate and help others, but also as daily reminders not to let those old overworking habits creep back in, because it's still there. I haven't changed. I still enjoy my work. I like going the extra mile for clients and for my colleagues and for my friends. I like cramming too much in, but I have to really, keep reminding myself it's that life-work balance, that less is more, and really applying those smarter working habits. It's a much happier and more successful way of living and working. So that's what I would tell, and I hope that 18-year-old version of me would bloody well listen and apply it and focus.
Yeah, I think he would. Sam's asked, what is the biggest challenge that you solve for organisations and their employees?
Yeah, okay, yeah, thank you. Good question. So, depending on the timing of that question, I might have already answered it, but as a recap from the session, it's kind of several things kind of wrapped into one, but where does it all go back to? It all goes back to getting a team together, an organization together, the HR team, the exec team. Typically we'll start to look at this with me and some of my colleagues, and we properly and openly discuss and debate the root causes of work-related stress in the organization. And typically we'll go and reinforce that and validate it by doing some surveys, some forum groups with a representation from across the organization. So we're applying equality, diversity, inclusion as well, and making sure that we haven't just got people sat behind a desk in an ivory tower making decisions based on their own whims and experiences, but they're actually giving people opportunity and listening to what other people think and feel. And then we take those verified root causes, and then we put them into using some of the survey and the forum groups, we put them into an order of priority or urgency. And then we put a team of champions together, again, representation from across the business, not just in the exec team. And then we think tank and put together the solutions, the ideas on how we can significantly reduce those root causes, or ideally eliminate them altogether. And then we put that into a culture change plan, which we then have a whole internal communications piece to roll out and communicate across the organization. But to follow it through, we've got the champions project managing it, we've got an exec sponsor, all the right key ingredients of a successful project or change management plan, which statistically most companies get that wrong. I think it's like 90-something% of change management initiatives fail to meet their objectives that were set out at the beginning, and fall drastically short, or even they get given up on. We start with the initiative, do a lot of the hard work, and don't follow through, and we move on to the next shiny thing. What a waste. And I see this far too often, and it is what it is. And we call it out, then we have adult conversations about it, and then we look at, like, how can we do better, and how can we prevent such from happening again in the future. So in a nutshell, root causes of work-related stress, and then getting the right people together, getting the right training, the right knowledge, expertise to then prevent them and follow it through.
That's a good answer. There's one from Dan. He says, how can we find out more about the high performance leadership program and your other services?
Thank you, Russ. Thank you, Dan. So look, you've got the darrellwoodhouse.com website, which has a full services section and overview. You've of course got more testimonials and case study examples on there. Those are really important to me as well, like, you know, proving that what we do is legit and it's good and it's quality and it works. You've then got my LinkedIn profile. You've got a whole load of stuff on there as well, again, including a load of free resources, videos, blogs. There's the ebook. You've got 185 or so testimonials on my LinkedIn as well, so go and see for yourself what other overworked people are saying about working with me through my programs. And if it's easy for me to point you directly to a particular product, if you want to know about one-to-one exec coaching, or you want a keynote at your annual conference, or a workshop done for one of your teams, just send me a message on LinkedIn. It's probably the easiest one. Send me any requests, any questions on there. I can then direct you to the specific website pages, or we can just jump on a call, get to know each other a bit more. We can do a bit of think tank of where you feel that you and your organization are at the moment, and I can kind of do a bit more of a tailored set of recommendations on how we can get the best results for you.
Great. So there are more questions, but I think we're quite tight on time now. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we should probably wrap up there. Thinking about time management and people's well-being and screen breaks and all that. But no, thank you, Russ, again for what you've done there with that, and thank you everyone, those of you that joined us live. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your feedback. Send me a message, or let's jump on a call. You know, I'd love to hear how helpful this has been, and what your favourite takeaways were. And hopefully we'll get the opportunity to do some work together, or I can help you and your teams. Thanks very much. Have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to speaking to and meeting many of you soon. Bye-bye.